How I pay respect to the Buddha first. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, today, the 12th of July 2009, we are starting on the Samyutta Nikaya Suttas, and we see how many suttas we can complete in this 3 months Vasa. Hopefully we can cover most of the suttas, but I will try to speak on these suttas every night. But the problem is, when you talk 1 hour of the suttas, you need a few hours of preparation. So I don't know whether every day can prepare or not. Last time when I did the Anguttara Nikaya, it was like 1 talk a week. So I had 1 week to prepare, and now I have only a few hours every day to prepare. So anyway, we will try our best. The Samyutta Nikaya is one of the 5 Nikayas. Nikayas means collection of discourses of the Buddha. Okay, so now we start again. This Samyutta Nikaya is one of 5 Nikayas. Nikayas means collections of the Buddha's discourses. And Samyutta means yoked together or grouped together. So Samyutta Nikaya then can be said to be topically grouped discourses. Now, all the 5 Nikayas, the Digha Nikaya, Majjhima Nikaya, Samyutta Nikaya, Anguttara and Kuddaka Nikaya. Digha Nikaya are the long discourses of the Buddha, 34 suttas, long discourses. Majjhima Nikaya are the middle length discourses of the Buddha. There are 152 discourses. The Samyutta Nikaya consists about 2,000 discourses of the Buddha, and they are short discourses. Most of them are short discourses. Similarly, the Anguttara Nikaya are short discourses, about 2,000 of them. And the Kuddaka Nikaya is a collection of discourses that were compiled later. It's called Kuddaka means minor collection, but over the years it has grown with the addition of more and more books until it has become the major collection. The Samyutta Nikaya is sometimes said to be the oldest of the Nikayas and the most important. Why is it the most important? Because the Buddha's teachings are concerned with enlightenment or liberation, and actually there's only one path to liberation, the Noble Eightfold Path taught by the Buddha. Now this Noble Eightfold Path, if it is expanded, can be said to be the 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas. Bodhipakya Dhammas means the requisites of enlightenment. And the Buddha has stated in several discourses that the core of his teachings are found in these 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas. The essence of his teachings, the most important part of his teachings. What are these 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas? First you have the 4 right efforts, Samappadana. Then the 4 intense states of recollection, Satipatthana. The 4 bases of psychic power, Iddhipada. The 5 faculties, Indriya. The 5 powers, Bala. The 7 factors of enlightenment, Bojjhanga. And the Noble Eightfold Path, Arya Atangika Magga. So these numbers, if you add them up together, they become 37. That's why they are called 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas. Unlike the Digha Nikaya and the Majjhima Nikaya, the suttas in the Samyutta Nikaya do not have a proper name agreed by everyone. So sometimes the names given differ. Now the Samyutta Nikaya is divided into 5 books or 5 vargas. And these vargas, books are divided into chapters called Samyuttas. And there's a total of 56 Samyuttas in the 5 books or the 5 vargas. And these Samyuttas are the main topics in the Samyutta Nikaya. Now, all the suttas within a Samyutta, and there are 56 of them, all the suttas in one Samyutta concern the same topic. For example, the first one, Devata Samyutta, all the suttas there are compiled, they have something to do with Devata. And then, for example, the 47th Samyutta is the Satipatthana Samyutta. And this Satipatthana Samyutta, all the suttas in this Satipatthana Samyutta have to do with Satipatthana. So the Satipatthana groups together all the discourses of one particular topic. That is why a good translation of Samyutta Nikaya is topically grouped discourses. At the moment, there are 2 translations in English of the Samyutta Nikaya. The first one was by the Pali Text Society, and this one is about 100 years old already. And because it was the first translation, it was not very well done, not very accurate. But considering at that time it was the best. Because now over the last 100 years, the understanding of the Dhamma has grown among English-speaking people. And so now the most recent translation and the best we have now is by Wisdom Publication by Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi, an American monk. And this was done in the year 2000. So if you order this book, you have to get it from Wisdom Publications. Now, so we will use the translation of Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi in these talks, because it's the best translation we have at the moment. I will read the suttas. I might not read all the suttas. I will try to read as many suttas as possible, or parts of them, and then explain as best as I can. Okay, now we come to the first Samyutta, or the first book first. We come to the first book. It's called the Saggata Vagga. And according to the introduction in this book, the Saggata Vagga is so called because all the suttas in this book contain verses. Verses meaning gata, at least one, usually more. The Vagga is divided, or the book is divided into 11 Samyuttas containing a total of 271 suttas. Most of these Samyuttas are subdivided into several sections, usually of 10 suttas each. So, in the Pali Text Society copy of this Samyutta Nikaya, when they refer to the suttas, they also refer to these sections. But for this suttas that I'm going to read, I will not refer to the sections. I will only refer to the sutta number in that Samyutta. For example, if I say sutta number 25.49, that means it is the 25th Samyutta in this Samyutta Nikaya, 25th chapter, and 49th sutta in that Samyutta. So bear in mind that the sutta numbers will be, the first number will be the Samyutta number, the second number will be the sutta number in that whole Samyutta. Now we come to the first Samyutta, the Devata Samyutta. Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi explains here, Devata is an abstract noun based on Deva. But in the Nikayas, it is invariably used to denote particular celestial beings, just as the English word deity, originally an abstract noun meaning the divine nature, is normally used to denote the supreme god of theistic religions or an individual god or goddess of polytheistic faiths. Though the word is feminine, the gender comes from the abstract suffix "ta" and does not necessarily mean the devatas are female. The texts rarely indicate their sex, though it seems they can be of either sex and sometimes perhaps beyond sexual differentiation. Okay, so now we will go into the first sutta. The first sutta, so the sutta number is 1.1. The title here is Crossing the Flood. Thus have I heard. This translation, thus have I heard, the Pali is Evame Sutang. Like when we chant the Mangala Sutta, we always start with Evame Sutang. And in Chinese, the meaning is Ru Si Wo Wen. Thus have I heard. This phrase, the Buddha advised the monks to use whenever they quote a sutta. That means they have heard it from the Buddha. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling in Savatthi in Jeta's grove, Anathapindika's park. Then when the night had advanced, a certain Devata of stunning beauty, illuminating the entire Jeta's grove, approached the Blessed One. Having approached, he paid homage to the Blessed One, stood to one side and said to him, "How, dear sir, did you cross the flood?" And the Buddha said, "By not halting, friend, and by not straining, I crossed the flood." Again he asked, "But how is it, dear sir, that by not halting and by not straining, you crossed the flood?" And the Buddha said, "When I came to a standstill, friend, then I sank. But when I struggled, then I got swept away. It is in this way, friend, that by not halting and by not straining, I crossed the flood." And the Devata said, "After a long time, at last, I see a Brahmin who is fully quenched, who by not halting, not straining, has crossed over attachment to the world." This is what the Devata said. The teacher approved. Then that Devata, thinking, the teacher has approved of me, paid homage to the Blessed One, and keeping him on the right, disappeared right there. That's the end of the sutta. Now, this Deva asked the question, how did you cross the flood? This flood, crossing the flood means going over to the other shore. Sometimes they use this expression. And it means becoming liberated. This shore is samsara, the mundane world, which is the cycle of birth and death. And the other shore is nibbana. So, to cross over to the other shore also means cross the flood. And the Buddha said, by not halting and by not straining. Another translation you can use is by not standing still and not striving hard across the flood. And then he asked, how is it by not standing still and not striving hard? The Buddha said, when I came to a standstill or when I stood still, then I sank. But when I strove hard, then I got whirled about. This is another translation. I got whirled about. It is in this way, friend, that by not standing still and not striving hard, I crossed the flood. So, what the Buddha means is that he practiced a middle path. In the beginning, when the Buddha used effort to struggle, to seek liberation, he used excessive effort. And he used excessive effort to the extent that he underwent various types of ascetic practices, extreme ascetic practices. by going naked. He said when he was practicing the ways of the naked ascetic, in the daytime he will be scorched by the sun, because India sometimes daytime is extremely hot, be burned by the sun. And at night, when the cold wind blows from the Himalayan mountains, he will be shivering so much that his teeth will be chattering. So that was one extreme. And then another type of extreme was like he ate little. He practiced like eating one meal a day. Then later 2 days one meal, and then later 3 days one meal, and then 4 days one meal, until I think 14 days he only took one meal. Of course, when he took that one meal, he will gorge himself as much as he could, and then after that he refuses to eat for 13 days. So when he tried this type of practice and he found that it did not bring him enlightenment, then he abandoned it. Then he tried something else. Then he tried like eating less, eat every day but eat less. And eat less and less and less until he ate 1 grain of rice a day. Nothing else. 1 grain of rice a day. Because his desire to become liberated was so strong. So in the explanation of the Noble Eightfold Path, it is said, of the Four Noble Truths, it is said that the cause of suffering, dukkha, is craving, and one of the cravings is craving for existence and craving for non-existence. So in this case, his craving for non-existence, that means to be liberated from this world, was excessive. So it is a cause for continued existence, because if a person uses too much effort, then he is not cool. Nibbana is a state, a cool state. So to reach Nibbana, the cultivator has got to be cool. So when you use too much effort, the mind is very agitated. The desire is too strong. So that's why he said when he strove too hard, he got whirled about. It's like in a whirlpool. But when he did not use any effort at all, then he sang. So without these two extremes of no effort and too much effort, he practiced the middle way. That means the path to liberation is by making effort, but not to have too much desire. It's always said that when we practice the holy path, we make the effort, but don't be too ambitious for the result. The result will come naturally when we practice the right way and we let go of our attachments, which includes, of course, the desire to be liberated. Now the second sutta at Savatthi. When the night had advanced, a certain Devata of stunning beauty, illuminating the entire Jeta's grove, approached the Blessed One. Having approached, he paid homage to the Blessed One, stood to one side and said to him, "Do you know, dear sir, emancipation, release, seclusion for beings?" And the Buddha said, "I know, friend, emancipation, release, seclusion for beings." "But in what way, dear sir, do you know emancipation, release, seclusion for beings?" And the Buddha said, "By the utter destruction of delight in existence, by the extinction of perception and consciousness, by the cessation and appeasement of feelings. It is thus, friend, that I know for beings emancipation, release, seclusion." So here the Deva is asking the Buddha whether the Buddha knows the path to emancipation or liberation. And the Buddha says he knows. And the Deva asked him to explain. And the Buddha said, first, the utter destruction of delight in existence. But for you to achieve that, you got to see dukkha in existence. If you realize that existence is dukkha, suffering, unsatisfactory. That is one condition. And then the other one, the Buddha said, extinction of perception and consciousness, and cessation and appeasement of feelings. Normally in the suttas, the Buddha talks about a state, nirodha, cessation, which also means a cessation of perception and feeling. But when there is cessation of perception and feeling, it also means cessation of consciousness, because all these come together. So, if a person can come to that state where consciousness, perception and feeling ceases, then that is liberation. Because this world is the world of the six consciousness. And our six consciousness, the seeing consciousness, the hearing, smelling, taste, touch and thinking consciousness arises, then the world arises. So Nibbana is a state where consciousness ceases, and together with it feeling and perception, so that the world ceases entirely. The third sutta, 1.3, at Savatthi, standing to one side, the Devata recited this verse in the presence of the Blessed One. Life is swept along, short is the lifespan. No shelters exist for one who has reached old age. Seeing clearly this danger in death, one should do deeds of merit that bring happiness. And the Buddha said, life is swept along, short is the lifespan. No shelters exist for one who has reached old age. Seeing clearly this danger in death, a seeker of peace should drop the world's bait. That's the end of the sutta. So here the Deva recited 4 verses, and the Buddha in reply, the first 3 verses the Buddha copied him, but the last one the Buddha said the seeker of peace should drop the world's bait. Whereas the Deva said one should do deeds of merit that bring happiness. This Deva is saying that life, there's no security in life because all of us is swept along the stream of life, and we grow old, we become sick and we die. So he said, seeing this danger that we have to die, that we should do deeds of merit that bring us to a good rebirth, bring us to a happy state of rebirth. But the Buddha said, if you can see that life is such that in every state of rebirth, you have to grow old, you have to become sick and die, then a real seeker of peace, that means permanent peace, should drop the world's bait. The world's bait means all the worldly pleasures that entice us to prolong our existence. We want to exist in this world because there is happiness in this world. If there is no happiness, nobody would want to live in this world. But at the same time that there is happiness, there is also suffering in this world. So because there is suffering, that is the reason why we want to seek for liberation out of existence. But happiness and suffering is such that however much happiness you experience is never going to be enough. We are never going to be satisfied. Whereas when we experience dukkha, suffering, even a little bit, we find it so hard to stand, so hard to bear, we can't tolerate it. So because of that, that's why we seek liberation. And as we grow through life, as we go through the round of rebirths, we become more spiritually mature until we one day, because of so much suffering, that one day we look for a way out of samsara, out of this round of rebirths. Albert, can you please turn? The fourth sutta, 1.4, at Savatthi also. Standing to one side, that Devata recited this verse in the presence of the Blessed One. Time flies by. Time flies by. The nights swiftly pass. The stages of life successively desert us. Seeing clearly this danger in death, one should do deeds of merit that bring happiness. And the Buddha said, time flies by. The nights swiftly pass. The stages of life successively desert us. Seeing clearly this danger in death, the seeker of peace should drop the world's bait. So here again, the Buddha replied to this Deva by imitating, copying the first three verses. And then the last one, the Buddha says something different. We find these Devas, they encourage people to do deeds of merit for the very simple reason that in the previous life they did a lot of meritorious deeds. That's why they were reborn in heaven. So when they were reborn in heaven, they were experienced so much bliss and happiness. That's why they think that's the best way, that everybody should do deeds of merit and be reborn in heaven. But the Buddha, with a higher wisdom, sees that even this happiness in heaven is impermanent, that it will pass away. You know, when we enjoy life, time goes by very fast. But when we suffer, time goes by very slowly. So, if a being in heaven, after a lifetime of millions of years, that lifetime ends, he will think, oh, my life is so short. Still got this to do, that to do. But a being in hell, when he's suffering, one day to go by is like eternity. Because during that one day, he's tortured so much, he suffers so much. So Devas, they think the path to happiness is to do deeds of merit. But the Buddha, in the second sutta, where he says that we should drop the world's bait. Don't be tempted by all the pleasures in the world, because if you want to enjoy the pleasures in the world, you can never get out of the world. And this world is unsatisfactory. Dukkha. The fifth sutta, at Savatthi, standing to one side, that Devata recited this verse in the presence of the Blessed One. How many must one cut? How many abandon? And how many further must one develop? When the bhikkhu has surmounted how many ties, is he called a crosser of the flood? And the Buddha said, one must cut off 5, abandon 5, and must develop a further 5. A bhikkhu who has surmounted 5 ties is called a crosser of the flood. So here the Deva is asking, how many things must one cut? How many things must one abandon? And how many things further must one develop? Can you cross the flood? And the Buddha says, this one, we have to refer to the later books. And this is the explanation. One must cut off 5 lower fetters. And then one must abandon 5 other things. And when one must develop the 5 faculties. And then you must surmount 5 other ties. Now what are these things? The 5 lower fetters that you have to cut off to be liberated. One is the identity view, Sakaya Ditti. That means you identify yourself as somebody. And another of the lower fetters is doubt. And then the third is attachment to rules and rituals, Silabata Paramasa. And the fourth is sensual desire, and the fifth is ill will. So, if a person cuts off these 5 lower fetters, this one that I just mentioned, identity view, doubt, attachment to rules and rituals, sensual desire and ill will, he becomes an anagamin. An anagamin, the third fruit, Arya, has abandoned the 5 lower fetters. And then the Buddha said, I must abandon 5 other things. Abandon lust for form, lust for the formless world, conceit, restlessness and ignorance. These are the remaining fetters. There are 10 fetters that we have to eliminate to become liberated. So the first 5 are the 5 lower fetters, and the next 5 are the 5 higher fetters. And then to achieve that, you have to develop the 5 faculties. These 5 faculties, which are very helpful to enlightenment. The first one is faith in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. Then energetic effort, making effort. Then recollection or sati. Then concentration, samadhi. And wisdom, panya. These are the 5 faculties that we have to develop to attain liberation or enlightenment. And then the 5 ties that we have to surmount is lust, hatred, delusion, conceit and views. 5 ties, the 5 sangha, S-A-N-G-A. So these are the things that we have to abandon and eliminate, develop, etc. to become liberated.